Okay, we'll call the October 27th, 2025 work meeting to order. Chief?
Whichever you want.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I actually have 3 items on this this work session meeting, which kind of flow together, but we'll take them individually as we go here. After being with the department now coming up on, actually I think tonight is five months. And learning of how the officer corps is made up and stuff like that, I've taken a look at it, and past practice has been that our officers, except for myself and Deputy Chief Uden, they serve terms, whether it be a 2 or a 3-year term. I would recommend us moving away from terms and appointing 2 of our 3 officer levels, which would be the district chiefs and the captains. And this would be done so that we have continuity of an officer corps. We're not starting a project or working on things and then having our officers potentially switch out with a new term starting. The reason that I recommend the lieutenants stay as a term is it does give the chance for firefighters that upward mobility where they get to experience the officer level and see if that's something that they want to do or not. That is our lowest officer level, if you will. That's our entry officer level, and then captains and district chiefs would be those hires. I wanted to bring it to you for discussion. Any questions, any concerns with moving that route rather than potentially switching out officers every couple of years?
So then instead of a 2 or 3-year term, they're there indefinitely, or how long?
They would be there until they decided they didn't want to be an officer anymore, which means they could go back to a firefighter status, or if they retired, would be the ways. Obviously, if there's any personnel issues or disciplinary issues, there's always that route. But
Does that limit others who want to move up the ranks at all? That's what my concern would be.
it would limit them to getting to the captain or district chief level until one of those would open. Again, we would be keeping the lieutenant level
Right.
as that ability to move up.
And don't you worry that that would increase transition? People leaving, oh, I can go be a captain over here in Oak Grove or Ham Lake or...
I don't think so. Most departments have a response time limit, and most departments aren't looking to take members away from other departments. I wouldn't want to take members from Oak Grove or from Ham Lake because I'm assuming they're in a similar boat that we are, that they could use the help there just as we could use the help. So I wouldn't want to be taking different departments' firefighters. Can't say that we wouldn't, or if someone decided to, but we do have a response time limit as well.
Well, I truly believe you know what your department needs more than us. I'm just being like a devil's advocate right now because these thoughts are popping in my head. So.
I appreciate the discussion.
How long once a member of the fire department reaches a captain position or otherwise do they typically stay in that position even with term limits? Do they go for multiple terms?
It is my understanding that the current members have been in those positions for multiple terms.
And they would there'd be the same opportunity in the term position and this new position for either promoting or demoting, where the same rules kind of apply?
Well, there's no new position. I just want to
Yeah,
make that clear. They would have the option if they decided they didn't want to be a district chief or a captain anymore, that they could request a motion to go back to being a firefighter, which would be fine. It would open a position, and then it would, again, go back to application interview process.
so the only real change that would happen would be at the end of their limit, they would not have to reapply for it? Is that how it happens?
We would just get rid of the whole idea of terms or
Yeah.
limits at that.
Yeah,
At
but,
that
but
level.
as it stands right now, when it comes up to the end of their term, do they have to reapply?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it's an application process. We're coming up on the end of those terms. I've asked the lieutenants to stay on, to maintain some continuity with who's currently in the officer positions. I don't know who's going to apply, who's going to decide not to, and who may want to from the fire department body at large. So I asked the lieutenants, so we would not post those positions unless a lieutenant applied for one of those higher positions and got it. But we are coming up on the end of the terms as they currently are, that I believe they were filled in '23. So in January, we're coming up, so whether they're terms or they're appointed, because they would then be appointed by the council, just like Ben and myself, doesn't change the pay structure or anything like that, it just how they're appointed to their position. Whether we do either of that, we need to do it relatively soon so that we don't have a lapse.
Yep.
Come the beginning.
Has there been any feedback from the other members of the fire department about this?
I talked with the officer corps about it. You know, they were in favor of it. I haven't talked with the entire body at large about this. I could imagine that there are going to be some questions on why we're doing that. If you would like me to, I can definitely go back before the body and engage with them.
I'm just wondering if there's some feedback from, if you already had any feedback from them.
I did talk with the morning training crew, which is, I think it was 5 or 6 members. There were a couple of questions on, you know, mobility. There were a couple of questions on just if the right person would get to the right position, or if it wasn't the right person, how would that be handled?
And how would that be handled? Because I have seen businesses that have had military, for one, who have had been put in leadership positions who did not belong there.
And that's why we have our disciplinary section of our policy, which is section 9. It's in place today. If there's performance issues, we would go through the same thing as if we would with a firefighter or anybody else. We would try and address the issue. We would try and coach with them. We would try and give them an improvement process. And if that doesn't work, then it would be a recommendation of removal from the position.
From the position, not the fire department, or from the...
I think it would
depends
depend.
on what it...
I think it would depend on what it was, because there are some amazing firefighters that have, you know, they don't want to be leaders. You know, sometimes they get put into it, they get voluntold, if you will, that, you know, we're going to make you a lieutenant type deal. But, you know, if it's nothing egregious, or, you know, if it's just something that, again, even if they didn't want to do it, I would give them the option. Now, if it's something that's unbecoming of the department, then we would have a different discussion. I have no problem bringing it back to the department.
No,
But I want to make sure.
If we want to get this done, that's just fine. I was just wondering if you already had any kind of feedback on.
I discussed it with the officer corps.
Yep.
I did not discuss it with the majority of the members themselves.
Mr. Mayor, what's your thought on it? You were on the fire department many years.
Well, we had this in place probably prior, I would say, to 2018. 2018 about is when we brought in the terms through Chief Descharme. And it worked out, the process worked out good, but like he says, you'll find out that people will come in there wanting the job, but then all of a sudden they're gonna step away and they don't, so I would tend to agree with him, you know, to do his due diligence on the interview process to make sure this is what they really wanna do and move forward.
Oh, right, because I know what you're saying too, because some people are not leaders and they don't want to be put in that position if they don't have to.
No, I
so
think we
I
had
just
one,
wanted your opinion on it.
I think we had one just step down just prior to him coming on there.
All right,
That was a captain and he stepped back and he's just a firefighter now.
firefighter. Thanks.
One other thing with this is, as long as we brought up the selection process, with the district chiefs, you guys have not seen the policies yet, but I will be proposing that actually for the district chiefs, an outside panel of chiefs, 3 chiefs will be interviewing them and making recommendations to myself. So it's a truly non-biased opinion of the merit of the resume, the education, the experience, and the answers to the interview. And then I'll conduct the second interview and come with recommendations should that
Be needed.
be needed.
So you said 3 chiefs, not in our department, is
Correct.
that what? how
3
I
surrounding departments
Okay.
would be asked to participate in that, because that gives a truly objective view. It's not subjective of my bias or anybody else's. It's outside the department, you know.
But you would take into consideration what you have seen
Of-
out of their performance.
Of
because
course.
Some people think they're better than they are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I have not seen anything that's concerning. Again, we're coming up on the term limits, whether we do terms or appointments. We're coming up on this, and I would recommend doing it the same way, even if it were terms. Again, it's the most objective view that we can get on that initial interview for being outside the department. Then that's why there's
idea.
and that's why there's a second interview with myself, you know, because I do have some time working with all these members now, but
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, and that process is good, you know, bringing in other chiefs. I mean, we got called out once before on possibly being biased and everything in our procedure, so we rewrote everything. And even on our panel, besides a couple of our firefighters, we had the sheriff's liaison and them added to it, to the board too, so, which worked out good for us.
Yeah, that would make sense, definitely. Otherwise, you're gonna get the finger pointing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's important that you as the chief want to make these changes, thinking or assuming, maybe, it's not the right word I'm looking for here, but you're seeing a way to make the department even better and function better as a group under your leadership. And I think that's important, that we support something like that and give you the abilities to do these things. So I like the idea.
I appreciate the support. You know, as I've said, this is everybody's department. I just want to make sure that, again, we have the continuity of the top of our officer corps. That's important. If you have people that are done in 6 months, you know, is their head fully in it, or do they not want to do it anymore? And I have no doubt of our core now. But if we maintain the terms, that's something that worries me. I'd rather have people that are appointed that we know are going to be there. And if they decide they're done, then they can request self-demote and open up the door for the next person.
I also think it's a good idea what you're doing, definitely.
Okay?
so are there yearly reviews or biannual reviews of officers?
I can't answer that question right now. I would have to figure out if we do them or not.
Okay. I was just thinking that in the same way that a term limit comes up and it asks the question, does a person want to continue in this role? If it would be beneficial to say, have an interview done every 3 years to touch base with that person and do you want to continue? Do you need tools or do you want to step back to ask those questions?
I'm in favor of annual reviews for all of our firefighters because I believe, I mean, myself included. That's how we learn where we need to grow. That's how we learn where we're best at. That's how, you know,
But it would give an officer an opportunity to speak up. Sometimes people get stuck in a role and they don't speak up for themselves. They say, I want to step back. I don't like this anymore. But having a review would at least give that opportunity that, say, a term limit would, that they can reassess.
and we can definitely implement that if it's not already there.
Okay. No,
Again, I haven't been there long enough to do any sort of annual review or nothing yet,
Yep.
so
no, that's okay.
I apologize for not having that answer.
So, yeah, otherwise, I think it's a good idea. If this is the way that the fire department wants to go, then I have no objections to it.
Okay. Are we okay to move down to number 2? Okay, so currently the office or the hierarchy of the department would be myself and then Deputy Uden. And then we have 2 district chiefs, we have 2 captains and 3 lieutenants. The officer corps change that I would like to make is I would like to have a captain at each station. So we would lose a lieutenant we would essentially get rid of a lieutenant spot, which would be over at Station 3. We would make that position a captain. We're going to be moving forward with officers or interested parties of applying for the officer positions that we just discussed. So it would move that position to a captain role. That's just the typical hierarchy that we see. Usually each station would have a captain. We would end up with a lieutenant at Station 2 and a lieutenant at Station 1. If we made it to where we had enough people at Station 3, we could add a lieutenant position down there if the span of control got too large for one person. But right now we're not there, so it makes sense to have that one officer position. So that's the proposed. It would be the 2 district chiefs, 3 captains, and 2 lieutenants.
My first question would be, you mentioned a possible future lieutenant role. Do you have to come back in front of city council to open that lieutenant's role at Station 3 if needed?
I would say any officer corps change, something like that, I would come before council and make sure that everybody's updated on what the needs are and that everybody's
Okay.
on the same page.
Because otherwise, I would suggest just approving a lieutenant's role in that spot and just not fill it until such time that it's needed, just to cut down paperwork. But if you want to come back and ask for it too, that's perfectly fine.
I would be happy to maintain that if it's possible within the city. Obviously, I'm not asking for another spot or another officer spot right now. It's just the reorg of what that makeup is.
What's the difference in pay for a lieutenant and a captain?
Do not have those numbers on the top of my head. I do have them in my desk.
Okay.
I'm not gonna try and make it up. I don't have them. I can send them
Sure.
to the council as a whole. That would have a minor financial implication, but I don't think it won't change anything on our.
Yeah, I don't think it's that much.
On
I
our
was just
budget.
wondering.
Your position requirements now, I know back in the capstone report, there was a huge emphasis on leadership, and I see there's no leadership in any of the requirements anymore.
I didn't understand exactly what you were saying.
The capstone report that was done last year, a huge part of it was at the end on the summary and everything was that, there's leadership classes needed for the whole department and,
Classes?
Yeah.
Okay.
and I know back in the day, there was leadership, 1 or 2 and 3 we had in, position requirements too of officers. And I don't see that in there anymore, so I was just kinda curious.
Depending on, so there's a couple of changes when we look at the position requirements for all of the officers. There used to be something called basic pumps class or
Yep. Yep,
operations.
there's basic pumps.
I asked around at the department what that entailed, and it was brought to my attention that we don't really do that class anymore in-house. So I got rid of it and I replaced it with fire apparatus operator, which is a nationally accredited, recognized course. And then, for example, with the district chief, Officer 1 and Officer 2 would be required. The leadership 1, 2, and 3 is no longer offered, which was in this report. There's a lot of different routes that we can go, but some of those classes are getting a little bit difficult to get, especially the NFA classes. They don't constantly come around.
Well, they're outdated.
So I don't, as far as, entering into the job position, I think that the certifications that are recognized by IFSAC and Pro Board, which are the accreditation services for the nation, I think that gives us a good foundation to build off of. That doesn't mean we stop. It doesn't mean that we call it good. There's a lot of opportunities to go to section schools and take different leadership classes, and I guess that's more where I would push my people to go, is go learn from those that are in the service, up to and including, potential out-of-state travel. There's a lot of great leadership conferences out there. There's a lot of great fire department training that is getting outside of the Minnesota firebox and bringing those lessons learned back to the department. So, Mayor, to your point, no, they're not there, but I think that I would more request that they go to these classes, which is why I kept the annual requirement of an additional 12 hours, because that gives them the chance to go out to these college weekends, which is what it is. It's put on by Riverland College or Moorhead State.
Oh, yeah.
And go out and take leadership classes there, and bring those back. I don't want to put in a requirement something that we can't get, or one we don't believe in. And I'm not saying that the NFA classes aren't good. Some of them are outdated. Some of them are getting revamped right now, so I would rather not identify them here, and I would rather encourage pursuing outside education.
Do you advertise those courses to the firefighters, and do they pay for them, or does the fire department pay for them?
We do advertise. As soon as we get the flyers, we put them out. They can request to go to them, and we pay for them, which is why our training budget is where it is, so that we can cover those costs and encourage them to go.
Perfect.
Part of this too, there is an outstanding OSHA requirements bill that's kind of been put on hold. The fire service believes some form of it is coming, but some of these classes that I've replaced, like the basic pumps class, are the ones that are recognized nationally and that will be recognized by OSHA. So part of this is trying to get us ahead of that curve on whatever they may put into practice. I don't want to go real deep into it because it has truly been put on hold for a little while, but it's the emergency response standard. It's from the fire brigade standard. It's being updated. It was put together in 1980 as a 40-page document. They have since updated that to a 608-page document, and part of these training requirements are what would help us meet that should they start to put that into place.
Well, back to the subject, I got no issues with having a new captain position.
Okay. Any other questions from the council?
Under your duty officer, you got position requirements, you ain't got much of anything, but I would assume we should have some kind of medical requirements there if you're gonna be a medical officer. It's down further, Matt, be underneath.
Position requirements
Captain?
must be officer or
No,
firefighter.
duty
270.
officer.
That's the next one.
It's gonna be page 15.
I will admit this is an oversight on my part.
Yeah, I kinda assumed it was, but.
And I apologize for that. However, I do think that it's put in that way currently because whoever is a duty officer is an officer of the department, so they have to fill the requirements in the job descriptions prior. The last part of what I was gonna bring up is the senior firefighter acting as a duty officer. This is another way for them to experience some of the officer roles and experience some of that upward mobility. We were gonna rely on the duty officer job description to fill that for the senior firefighter.
Can you give a definition of what you're considering as a senior firefighter duty officer?
Senior firefighter, according to East Bethel standards, is where they're at
Okay.
firefighter 3.
I think you should have that in there somewhere.
And I am actually going to recommend tabling this so I can update this and get this before you as a proper document. I apologize.
Yeah, it's just broad, I think, and I think the description needs to be a little better.
I would agree. The policy set forth, though, once we get the job description nailed down, the policy, I don't believe would change, and that is also before you. We've had the officers, we've fluctuated on officers that fill that duty officer week, where they're filling the night shift from 1700 to 0500 and answering the calls and acting as the senior officer or the senior firefighter for the department. Prior to my arrival, it is my understanding that the chief and the deputy chief or assistant chief also were in that rotation. Obviously, with me living outside the area, I can't fill that rotation. I won't make it back before the calls are done. So it's been running with the district chiefs, the captains, and the lieutenants filling those roles.
Yeah, the chief was never, ever involved.
Okay, I was misinformed. I apologize about that.
No, it was just
Um,
deputy chief, chiefs, and captains and lieutenants that ran it.
Okay. So in an effort to, again, give some experience opportunities, Deputy Chief Uden and I proposed coming up with this senior firefighter duty officer program, where those that may be interested and meet the requirements of a duty officer would be able to fill that role for a week, be compensated as everybody else is, so there's no financial implication. But this stretches out the rotation, rather than it being, 2, and 3, 7, it would stretch it out to every 10 weeks. That a person's on call essentially for 7 nights. The one part about this is it would create a role with, again, no financial impact, where we would have essentially a duty chief that would be a phone call away for a simple call or something that they're not understanding, or, hey, I'm in over my head, and that chief is then expected, or that person is then expected to respond back to the station and assist with that scene. I would assume, I don't anticipate it being a problem. I anticipate questions and, hey, I haven't dealt with this before, or how do we do it? But that would also come with education prior to them taking over their first week. Go over the most common calls that they would be expected to respond to, the smells and bells, and the fire alarms that are going off, the smoke, CO detectors that are going off, fire alarms at a commercial structure where it was a malfunction or that kind of deal. But it would just give some breathing room for our officers, again, to not be on house arrest for 7 days every 7 or 6 weeks, whatever it comes down to.
So their schedule is they would work 7 days, 12-hour shifts. And then do they have a couple of days off the next week, or do they go back to their regular duty hours the following week? How does their schedule work?
The officers rotate on a week-long basis. So I think it changes on Mondays, if I'm correct, Mayor?
Yep.
Switches on Monday night, and Captain 1 takes the response vehicle from Monday night until essentially Sunday or Monday morning at 0500. And then the next person in line Captain 2 would take it, and it just rotates through and eventually gets back to Captain 1 6 weeks later, and they're back with that truck.
Okay, and you have 6 people,
We have 7.
7 people
Yep.
rotating?
Yep.
And do you think you can add people by adding the
The senior firefighter
senior
duty.
firefighter? That's a good idea, yeah.
If there's people interested as well. Again, we gotta look at this and make sure that we can get it approved here, and then approach everybody and see if they're interested. And
It helps where you don't burn out your officers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Every 6 weeks is a short time period, it goes fast.
Yep, it does. And if if there's more people, it might allow for, because they can trade as they want to, so it opens up that trade window a little bit more where, hopefully not doing it 1 week on, 1 week off, and then another week on because you're trying to help out a different officer.
Yeah, and if somebody has a week on and they have something that comes up, a family member goes to the hospital or something, and they need a day or 2 off, do they just can they switch a day or 2, or do they have to switch like the whole week?
We encourage switching a week. It's easier on the financial side, but obviously if someone needs help in that manner, we're gonna figure it out and
Okay, just curious.
make those trades, yeah. We have someone on 24/7, with the duty officer, and then with Ben and I and duty crew and that kind of stuff. But we're gonna work with our people to make sure that we can get them where they need to be should an emergency happen.
Okay.
Looking back on the duty officer job description, I do envision it looking very much like a lieutenant position.
Yeah. No,
So
that's
I
fine.
don't think it's gonna stray very much from that, and I think that that's why it's written the way it is.
Nope, I'm good. Any other questions for our chief? All right.
Nope, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Move on to the last item there, short-term rental.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, wanted to just bring up this topic of a short-term rental ordinance. I've included in your packet on page 20 there, this is a redacted complaint that we received concerning property at 19520 West Tri-Oaks Circle Northeast. Essentially, what's happening, as it was reported, gatherings are occurring at this property where 20 to 40 or more people are coming. And we believe it's kind of being used as a VRBO wedding type of a scenario.
It's a VRBO,
Yeah, VRBO.
Sleep 16.
Yeah, so kind of weddings, family reunions, bachelorette parties, guys, golf weekends, things of this nature. Okay. So essentially, we do not have a short-term rental ordinance on the books at all. We really don't kind of cover VRBO issues. And so this is kind of, want to just have a conversation with you when we get a complaint like this. Currently, as long as they don't exceed 250 people outdoors, they're not violating any of the ordinances on the books. 250 people in a small neighborhood is a lot of people, up to that many, obviously. It's even 30, 40, depending on the demeanor of those people, obviously. If they're outdoors, hooping it up and possibly consuming beverages and things of this nature, it could get wild. And that somewhat seems to be the, at least this complaint. I do know that other cities have addressed this issue. I know that there's some contesting of these issues that are out there. But essentially what you're looking at is, there are health department concerns that could exist. Is the septic up to code? Is the well up to code? Are the smoke detectors operational? There's different inspections that can be done for safety and wellness when you have a large number of people within a small structure. What happens when a fire, breaks out, that sort of thing. And so we wanted to bring this forward to you to see if this is something that you would like us to research further to determine if we want to adopt or look at adopting a short-term rental ordinance that would kind of put some parameters around. When we find out there's a VRBO, we'll send them, this is the regulations on this. This is what you have to do to maintain peace and quiet, right to privacy, all that sort of thing in a functioning neighborhood. We don't get many complaints like this, I will say that. But the ones that we do, it's kind of more of maybe a neighborhood is reacting after enduring it for a while. It's not just a one-off, type of scenario. This is happening and reoccurring, and finally they call. But at any rate, this is the question, right? This is the policy that you people get to decide on, is if there's going to be any sort of ordinances that would kind of treat these properties as somewhat of a commercial business-like operation, put some parameters around it, allow some inspection to happen, very similar to rental properties, so that we can ensure that that at least people are reasonably safe, as far as the structure is concerned, not necessarily in terms of their behavior, but we can't control that part of it. I want to get your feedback.
So my question is, it seems like besides the noise, their big issue is the parking. We have ordinances that say you can't park on the street overnight. If they're parked on their yard, can't they just call a tow truck and have those vehicles towed and teach them a lesson that way? Put a sign up, your vehicle will be towed if you park here?
I would assume that they're probably not parking on the lawn necessarily. They're probably parking up and down the street.
Oh, well, that's what the thing said, parking on my lawn. And
Yeah. I would assume if they're renting it and they destroy the lawn, that'll be,
well, the neighbor's lawn is, I thought they were parking on
maybe they're parking up on the right of way,
in the easement.
West
Yeah,
Drive.
that may be the case. I'm not sure. But,
My address is Wyoming, is it?
but yeah, it's,
Yep.
I mean, obviously we want people to enjoy themselves, but if there's a business that is kind of putting the neighborhood at, you know, at a,
Residents should have a right to quiet enjoyment of the property.
Right.
I
We
mean,
do have rental ordinances, correct?
we do, yes.
I mean, if they're gonna run it as a business and the parking that, I mean, we require businesses to have so many parking spots. And I mean, if they're gonna run this as a business, I would think they should have the adequate parking. I mean, it's, like I say, it lists it for sleep 16 people.
So it should have at least 8 parking spots.
Yeah, this place was built in 97. It's worth 1.5 million right now.
Can you pass that over here? I'd like to see it.
Yeah, there was a lot of headaches when people didn't want it there when it originally built.
Is there anything in our current rental ordinances that would apply to this property? Or to any future properties of VRBOs?
Nothing in our code restricts rental properties from hosting gatherings. So say you have a graduation party and there's 50 people that come.
Yep.
You know, those type of scenarios happen once a year, everyone kind of knows it,
Yeah.
everyone expects it. But every other weekend, I think, is where you're starting to get into that.
It's a bit excessive.
Right, right.
So there's nothing in our current rental ordinance that would cover any of these issues.
There might be some overlap in there, but again, if they don't have, if they're not required to at least notify us that they have this going on by ordinance, then we can't really, unless you happen to pull it up on VRBO and see, oh, there's a rental here, you know.
Yep.
You don't really know until it's, and I'm sure there's some that operate peacefully out there, right? But these larger homes, larger venues might kind of be the culprit that, you know, it creates a scenario that everyone now has to comply with, you know. But I think, I know that a friend of mine rented out a cabin, and whether it was the county or the state approached them and said, you need to get so many, you know, things in line in terms of inspections. We got to make sure your, like I said, your smoke detectors and everything are operational. We need to make sure it's a clean property. They just decided that the hoops they had to jump through was not worth it anymore. They stopped VRBOing it. But in that particular instance, there was a control mechanism in there to ensure that people are taken care of. You know, if they're going to be renting this property, that there's something in place, some enforcement in place to make sure that it's safe and clean and not going to endanger them. We just don't have that, so it's hard to enforce that if someone calls in and says, "Hey, we got a problem. We don't have an ordinance that says you can't." You know, so.
Do you know how much acreage this is on? It looks like it's on a good-sized plot of land.
No, it's not.
I think it's on a lake lot.
Yeah.
Really?
it might be-
That looks so big.
Might be a half an acre.
0.78
Yeah.
of an acre.
Oh, wow.
Just over 3/4, so it's a decent size lot for being on the lake, but it's not, 5 acres or anything.
Yeah.
Well, they're renting it out for $930 a day, $6,500 for the week.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
They appear to be getting it.
Yeah. Well, you got the lake access there. I'm sure they leave their toys there too to rent them out too.
I don't know that a short-term rental ordinance would prevent this from happening, but at least it could put some parameters around, enforcement of bad behavior, that sort of thing, parking and, if they needed to have someone shuttle people, from somewhere else, maybe that's what they need to do, to prevent the congestion in the neighborhood, but.
For some of the, so, gonna try to look at it in 2 ways. One, that, okay, we have rental ordinance, but we don't have a VRBO ordinance. And the issue of neighbors having issues of trespassing, excessive drinking, noise, people. Are these two different issues that we're looking to solve here?
Yeah, so if you look at it in terms of long-term rental versus short-term rental, your short-term rental people kind of descend in on a weekend and
Yep.
things go crazy and then they leave. Long-term renters kind of coexist, I would think, in a neighborhood. You know, they get to know their neighbors and
Yep.
might have a level of, at least a potential to have more respect for neighbors than would be your weekend warriors. So that's kind of the way I'm envisioning this. We haven't researched yet what other cities have done and what ordinances and, you know.
Yep.
But
Well-
that's kind of the discussion, is if you want us to deep dive into this, we will. If that's the direction you want to go.
Well, I think first and foremost, we have to watch out for our residents first. Okay? I think we need to look into it to find out if they are indeed running it as a commercial business, for starters. And then take appropriate action, and take a look at what we can do to prevent this from coming in. You just can't advertise in neighborhoods to rent it.
We
You know,
have
for
5
what
to
they're
10.
doing and have weddings.
We have 5 to 10 VRBOs in the city right now that are operating.
Yeah. The only one that so far has attracted attention is this one.
Right.
If this is an issue, can the sheriff's department handle some of this stuff? Because if we don't have to put in additional ordinances that we don't have to, yes, we wanna protect our residents, but is it an ordinance that is needed? If there's 5 to 10 others and they aren't causing any issues, I wouldn't wanna put the residents that run the VRBO for some extra cash.
Right.
I don't wanna make them jump through the hoops because of one bad incident. So if there would be a way to curb this behavior for this particular property, but I would also be interested in looking at a potential ordinance just to see what it would entail, that if an incident like this were to happen again, that say you get 3 strikes. If you get cops called out 3 times to your VRBO, well, we're gonna pull your short-term license. Something like that.
Yeah, currently if the event exceeds 250 people or has noise that exceeds our ordinance, then the sheriff can do something. But otherwise they get called out and they have to inform the person calling that, sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. You know, there's no rules on the books that they're violating, so that usually doesn't go over well. But you know, those bachelorette parties, they can get a little out of hand at times, so. I'm kidding.
But, yeah, if that's the case, then that the sheriff's department does not have the tools to be able to
Right.
enforce this, then we should look into at least some sort of.
Okay. Well, that's what I'll do then, is I'll have, Grace is gonna kinda start looking at model ordinances that other communities have, determine if that would be a fit for us, determine if it would need to be tweaked, and then,
Yeah, I don't want something that would make the good renters jump through so many hoops that, like, the person that you knew, that they
Yeah.
just say not to do it, but there should be something that at the same time protects the quiet enjoyment of the residents, surrounding residents' property as well.
right. Very good. We will dig into that one. We'll come back with something addressing this. In the meantime, I think we may reach out to the property owner and let them know that we're trying to
There's.
identify the issues here and get our arms around it, and that may help quell some of the craziness that's going on, but,
Yeah, sometimes a simple conversation can help a lot.
yep. Okay, that's all I have.
Anything else? Okay, at this time, I'll close the work session.